Hey, welcome back to Already Overbooked. Thank you for stopping by for this week's weekly recap. And before we get too much into what I went through and read and what's coming up this upcoming week, I want to jump into the results from the fantasy football book giveaway from last week. I was going up against Chris from Bearded Book Beast, and if he won in fantasy football, I was going to give away a free copy of a book that he decided, and that was The Tomb by F. Paul Wilson. And to be honest, it was an intense battle. It came down to the final game again. That's 2 weeks in a row that I was this close to winning or losing the game. And this week, I ended up coming out on top again, beating Chris 119 to 110, which means I get to keep my book. Super excited. Love this book series. Highly recommend checking it out. But I get to keep it because I won. Now, for this week, I'm going up against a legend in the author space. Someone who has written 6 books. Each of them are intense and they're thrilling. And you all will have the opportunity to win one of them. This week, I'm going up against Timothy Wolf. And the book you will all be competing for this week is Platinum Tilted Darkness, Book 1 of the Legacy of the Golem. This book has been described as fantastic, as action-packed, dark fantasy thrill ride. So just like our previous 2 weeks, winners will be announced next week during the weekly wrap-up if I lose to Timothy Wolf in fantasy football. So if you want the opportunity to win this gem of a book, all you have to do to be eligible for this prize is comment below your favorite spooky read. Let's do that. Your favorite spooky read, since we're close to October, toss that in the comments below. And if I lose to Timothy Wolf, you will have the opportunity to win this book. So good luck. Drop your favorite spooky reads in the comments below. And hopefully, for your sake, Timothy beats me and you have a chance to go through and win this gem. So let's go through and jump into what did I read last week. So I ended up going through and reading 2 books. I was only able to go through and finish 2. Both of them were fantastic, by the way. So the first one was Sigil of Enderun by the great Ro Bushy. This book blends political intrigue, hidden magics, and the quiet ache of reinvention into a sweeping fantasy that begins in treason and really ends the story in this type of transformation. It is thoughtful. It is a layered fantasy about an exiled mage trying to start over on a distant island, only to find war and betrayal is following him there. And the story blends that political intrigue with that personal reinvention, and it shines in its world building and its complexity, definitely its moral complexity. And there's huge themes of loyalty, redemption. It's all around. It's a fantastic story. I cannot recommend more of going through and checking out Ro's book, Sigil and Ender Ruin. The second book that I went through and read was Nick Snape's book, A Dragon of the Veil. And this was a fantastic book. It was intense. It was gripping. The environment, the world, the characters, all were done so well. But honestly, my favorite part of this full book had to be how Nick did his dragons within this. Oh my goodness. The differentiation between what Nick does with dragons in this book and what other authors do with dragons in a different book or in other books in general is so different. It's so cool on what he went and did with this. I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't want to say too much about what he did, because I think going in blind and not knowing is going to really elevate the experience for everyone. But I can say it's super cool. The idea was awesome. Really love the premise of the story. I highly recommend going through and checking this out. I know for a fact I loved it, and I'm 100% going to continue the series. I think there's a total of 3 in this series. I'm not sure if he's planning on doing any more, and he's probably need to go through and ask him. But I know there's three, so I'm going to at least go through and jump into book two very soon once I get my hands on a copy. But this was so much fun. Highly, highly recommend checking out A Dragon of the Veil by Nick Snape. So the book that I am going to be reading this week is an ARC book that I received. I think it was a last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't recall when I got it, but it was Ken Liu. Ken Liu, the author of Dandelion Dynasty. His newest book is All That We See or Seem. Now, I've heard a few things. I've read a few very minor reviews on it. It's getting about 3 out of 5 stars, which I find it very interesting because Ken Liu's previous works, I've enjoyed every last one of them. Like, he writes so well. And so I know this has to do something with AI. I don't recall the full synopsis on the back, but we'll see. We'll see how this is. So I do want to jump in. I find Ken Liu's writing very, very well. He writes so well. And I don't see how this story cannot be at least poetically written very well. So super excited to go through and jump in that All That We See or Seem by Ken Liu. So jumping into my book haul, I received just one book this week. I didn't go through and personally buy anything, but I did receive an amazing copy from Darren Handsaw, The Artifacts and Enigmas, Mysteries from Redemption. I really do appreciate you sending me this, Darren. Before I jump in about synopsis, is it just me? Or the cover looks fantastic, by the way. But is it just me, or does the main people on the cover kind of remind you of Walter White and Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad? Again, the cover looks amazing. It's just, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, hey, it's the guys from Breaking Bad. So anyway, jumping into what the story is about. We have Athelgard is a knight investigator in the pyramid, the political center of the ancient scattered city known as Redemption. And as a master of observation and deduction, nothing gets by Athelgard, but when confronted with mysteries involving deadly and mysterious artifacts of the ancients, even he knows when to ask for help. That's where the renowned Prince Engineer of Raydale comes in. Both are experts in their own domain, and with their combined minds on the cases, no crime will remain unsolved. Now, this sounds really cool, very interesting detective type story with two experts of their field, but one being a wise older guy and then one being a little bit younger. So we'll see how those dynamics work. But very intrigued to jump into this story, hopefully sooner than later. So jumping into what's happening this upcoming week. On Monday, I am super excited to go through and have this video come out. It's 10 indie books that I think are ready for adaptation right now. This was so much fun putting together. I am looking forward to hearing all your thoughts to see if you agree with the ones that I think are ready, or if you have any other indie books that should be added onto the list. Let me know when you go through and watch the video on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm interviewing the great Ro Bushy, author of Sigil of End of Ruin. I'm super excited for this conversation. We've been talking for a little while. I've been on his show, Bald and Balding. We had so much fun going through and just talking nonsense. So very excited to have him on to go a little bit deeper of the Sigil and End of Ruin. I have some very specific questions I want to go through and talk to Ro about, because this book was so well done that I need to understand his thought process when he was going through and writing and figuring out what he wanted to do with this story. So super excited for Tuesday to have my conversation with Ro. Then on Friday, we're going to be going through and talk about everything that happens from now to then, and maybe I'll be doing a book giveaway for Timothy Wolf's book, if he can beat me this week. If not, I'm keeping another one, but we'll see. Good luck. Now, jumping into my indie author spotlight. This week, I want to go through and spotlight W.J. Long, the third author of the Silver Sight Saga. And this story is about, on the far side of the universe, what remains of humanity finds itself embroiled in the uneven cycle of mistrust, prejudice, and violence. Still, as they squabble amongst themselves, an imaginable threat looms. Few are aware of its presence, but a pair of misfits find themselves at the heart of the coming conflict. They are uniquely suited to confront, but wholly unprepared to face. This sounds intense. They're big, thick books. I think each book is like 700 plus pages. So I'm excited to hopefully get my hands on a copy of these to go through and check this out. But it sounds very cool. And if you're interested in this book, W.J. Long III's information will be in the description below. You can go through and get these and then, hopefully have a fantastic time. So jumping into my BookTuber Spotlight, this one, I was very surprised when I was going through and looking at this of who I previously spotlighted, and I never spotlighted this person. And this is Philip Hall. Philip is a bright, energetic, and very intriguing reviewer and poet. He has very interesting takes on stories and brings a bunch of years of compassion, years of insights, years of love for the literary space. And he does his videos so well, and just it really energizes me going through and watching him talk about these amazing books. He reads everything under the sun. He's super nice to go through and talk with. We've spoken back and forth over on YouTube a few times, but great guy. Seems very nice. I highly recommend checking out Philip's channel, and I'll have all the information in the description below. Go through and check out Philip Hall's channel. So that's it. That's all that's going on my neck of the woods. So let me know what you're reading, watching, or grabbing in your hauls this week. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe. You know what to do. Till I see you in the next one. Stay overbooked.